Hello, everybody. Welcome to DigitalOcean's webinar today. In this webinar, we're going to be talking about building a Laravel API. And if you've been following along with any of my personal previous webinars and tech talks here, I've been doing a lot of API building, headless CMS type stuff. I'm kind of on the search for finding the best backend that can let us build apps as quickly as possible. And I'm traditionally from the PHP realm. So here we are building a Laravel API. So to get some things out of the way, my name is Chris on Code. I am a senior developer advocate at DigitalOcean. I started a website called scotch.io for web development tutorials. This talk is being recorded and it will be emailed to you after the fact. You can also find it on the DigitalOcean YouTube channel as soon as this is done. Let's see, what else? Welcome again. Thank you so much for joining us. We're here to have some fun today. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them as we go along. There's a little questions box somewhere in here in the GoToWebinar panel that you can put your questions in, and we'll do our best to answer them live, or if not, we'll answer them at the end of this webinar. All right, so what our goal is today is to build a Laravel API from scratch. And the cool thing about Laravel is it's going to help us make this really easy. So we're going to do that over the next 40 minutes, and then we'll have Q&A at the end. So to get us started, we're here at DigitalOcean. If you want to know a little bit more about my background, which I don't know if you do or not, I built a website called Scotch, and this is built on Laravel, has a Laravel API, serves views with Laravel, and it was hosted on DigitalOcean for the entire life of the project. And now we are part of DigitalOcean, the DigitalOcean family. So if you're wondering if Laravel is a good idea for your project, I would personally recommend Laravel. It's taken us a long way and been very easy and fun to work with. So here we're going to go to Laravel. And if you haven't used Laravel, this is a PHP framework that comes with a lot of really good stuff out of the box. So to get us started, PHP framework, Laravel Forge, what is this? All the ecosystem. So Laravel comes with a lot of fun stuff. We're going to be dealing with the code itself and building the API. So I don't want to take up too much time just looking through the Laravel site. Let's go into our terminal. And here I have a Batcave folder. I'm going to open up my Laravel sites folder. And we'll start a new project. We'll say Laravel new, and I'm gonna call this my super duper new API. So that'll go ahead and install using Composer, which is PHP's package manager. All right, so this is installed for us. So what I'm doing is I'm using a tool called Valet. It comes with Laravel. You can install it. And then what it does is it looks at your folder structure, and pretty much every single folder in the Laravel sites folder is going to spin up into this right here, which is going to say my super duper. Oh, see, that's the problem with my goofy naming is I already forgot. So let's go here. Sorry about this. ls my super duper dash new dash API. Okay. Dash new dash API dot test. So Laravel here is by doing Laravel new, we have a brand new Laravel install, and then by putting it in that folder, we are able to visit it with the .test testing domain. All right, so remember that you can add any questions in there in the questions box if you have any, and we'll answer them. So the next step here is I'm going to open up Laravel into VS Code. And let me hide the activity bar, let me hide the status bar, and then let me maximize this so we all get some room. I hope that's large enough for you all to read. Maybe yeah, there we go. So if you're not familiar with Laravel, let us know. We can definitely do a getting started with Laravel webinar. And what we're going to do here is, if you're working with Laravel, the cool thing about it is that it gives you a lot of conventions to follow to build out your applications. So a few of the things that we need to focus on are routing for just getting HTTP requests to the right spot. We have controllers, which is kind of the middleman that maneuvers people around our application. And then we also have models and our database. So this is very similar to the MVC format, models, views, controllers, but we'll kind of be skipping the view part because we're building an API and we want this to just be accessed via an API. Question from the chat, will we be securing this API? We will not be in this one, but we will schedule another one for securing and authenticating and authorizing Laravel APIs, since that's such a big topic. So to get us started, if we open up this routes folder, we have this API folder, and then we have this web folder. These are the two, file, and these are the two that we're going to focus on. So if we open up the web file, let me zoom out for you all. So we have a brand new Laravel application, and all we have here is a route for the / and it returns the view welcome. And if you look here, that's this view right here. But we're not really focused on the front end, right? We're focused on the API more. So if you open up this API folder right here and we scroll down, this is middleware auth API get user. So what I want to do is just say route get, and then let's name this like testing the API. I named these way too long, but function. And basically we're going to return hello. That's not an array, message, and that's our return. So the cool thing about Laravel is that it has these route files for us. And as soon as we put a route in here, route get, and you can do a route post or a route delete or a route put or patch, if you're familiar with the HTTP methods. But here we'll just do a get. And now we'll go to our API, and let me push this to the left, and we can do /API/ gosh, I got to stop naming these so weird. So we have /testing the API. I'll just copy that right here, right there. Testing the API, it returns JSON as messages hello. So the cool thing about this is Laravel already has a file for us for building out our API, and the convention is if it's in this API.php file, it's going to be /, if you look right here, /API, and then whatever the route name is. So when we're building out our APIs, if you're doing a CRUD type project, let's say we have something like users. Actually, let's do something else. Let's do posts. So let's say we are building a blog, right? And we have posts. You would do stuff like route get for all the posts. And then I'm just going to do some pseudo code, some fake coding right here. So we would need to get all the posts. If we're talking about CRUD, we would do CRUD is basically step 1 is get all. Step 2 is get a single. Step 3 is, update a single. And step 4 is delete, right? So when you're building out APIs, this is the CRUD format that we know. And basically the HTTP requests is going to be how we differentiate between what we want our user to do. So this is going to be an HTTP get. This is going to be an HTTP get as well. This is going to be an put or a patch. And this is going to be a delete. And then we missed one, which we'll call this 2. Yeah, thank you. So in the chat, they're letting me know I missed create. So that's create a post, and that should be a post request. So with these HTTP requests, that's how we differentiate between the API, right? Get is get all. So this is going to be /posts. And if we want the full URL, it'll be API/posts. This is going to be at /API/posts. This is going to be /API/posts and then the ID. So we're going to say ID right here. And then we're going to say /API/posts/ID, but it'll be a put or a patch. And then this is going to be API/posts/ID. And that's the rundown for how you build a CRUD API, right? Is you're going to have these 5 requests. So we're going to go ahead and build all of those. We're going to build out our database, and then we're going to build out our migrations and make sure that we can actually use all of these in a Laravel API for a post. And then as soon as you want to build on this application, you just add more resources. So instead of posts, you'll have something else, I don't know, computers or whatever you're building, right? So we can definitely talk about authenticating in a future webinar if you are interested in that. But right now, let's make sure that our database actually has content for us to CRUD. So to get us started, we're going to do posts, right? To do a post, and this is my notes. So to create a resource, and that's like posts in Laravel. So step one, thanks for hanging out with my my note-taking skills. Step one, we need to create the database. Step two, we need to create a model to connect to the database. So this should actually be create the database and migration so that we can fill out our tables in the database. Step three, where are we at? Create a controller to go get info from the database. And then step four is return that info. Now you might be wondering, shouldn't there be like a 2.5 in here for create a service? The cool thing about this is Laravel provides a tool called Eloquent ORM, which is going to help us connect to the database. It'll map our model to the database so we can avoid writing out so many SQL statements, which is really nice. So let's start with creating the database and the migrations. The cool thing about Laravel is that it comes with a CLI tool called Artisan. We can do PHP Artisan, and we can do create. Golly, I already lost my. So we're going to do make model post. So we're going to make the model, and then we are going to say, hey, I want you to also create a migration. And actually, before I do this, let me do a git init. Cool. So now I did a git init, git commit first. Cool. No, I need a git add. Sorry about this, everyone. Git commit first. Okay, so let's clear that out. And now I'll do a PHP artisan make model post. And then I want the migration also. So let me show you what that created. It created two files. And if I open up my Git panel right here, we'll see that there's two files, a post model and then a post migration. So if I open up the migration file, we can see that it's going to create a table called posts. And then it's also going to let us define the properties on this table. So we want table, definitely title, or sorry, string, and this is going to be a title. We definitely want something like content, so we'll do a string for content. And we're not going to do that too much of this in this webinar because this is more like a getting started with creating an API, but we could definitely do table integer, and then we'll put the user ID in there, and then this will start to be our relationships between tables. But right now, we just want to build a base API real quick. So let's see, title and content. What else do we need in here? Title and content. I guess that's okay for now. Let's do table string slug, right? Because we need that. And then we want to make slug. Actually, slug is required. Let's make this nullable so that we can create posts with just a title. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is make sure that we actually have a database to connect to before we run this migration and create this posts table. So I'm going to close everything out. The way that we can do this is that we can say, hey, Laravel, I want you to use either MySQL or you can use Postgres, or in this case, since I'm working locally, I'll want to use SQLite since it's probably the easiest to set up locally. We got a request for likes in the database, so let's go ahead and add likes. Let's do table integer, and we'll do likes. And then let's do a default of 0. Okay, so next up, we need to create the database that this is going to work in. So if you're working in Laravel, all of our config files are in this handy dandy config folder. So we can open up config. We see there's a database file right here. And then what I can do is scroll down and we can declare a database connection. Now, the cool thing about Laravel is all of these config files are really fun to walk through and see how our application is configured. Down here, we have database connection is MySQL by default, but we can update this DB connection in our .env file. And this is how Laravel pulls from our env, our environment variables. So I'm going to go into my environment variables down here, .env. And then instead of all this stuff, which is how we configure MySQL, I'm just going to delete all that and do SQLite. Yes, so this is saying, hey, Laravel, I want you to look for an SQLite database. Now, when you deploy this to production, like when we deployed Scotch to DigitalOcean, we used a MySQL database. Here, we're working locally. It doesn't matter too much, so we'll do SQLite. So if you go back to this database.php, down here under database connections, there's a section for SQLite, and this is where Laravel will look for a database. So by default, it'll use the database folder, database.sqlite. So I'm going to go ahead and create that. You could actually create a db.database environment variable name and then move wherever you want to keep your database file. For us, I'm going to just go into this database folder, new file, and say database.sqlite. Cool. So let's take a step back, and I want to use a tool, excuse me, real quick. I want to use a tool to be able to look into this database. So I'm going to do SQL Pro for SQLite. This is the app I'm going to be using. So here we have a couple databases. I'm going to go create new database, or sorry, open existing database because we already have the file. I'm going to look into the Batcave folder, which is where I keep all my projects, Laravel sites, my super duper new API, database folder, golly, this is far, and database.sqlite. Okay, so once we're here, this is our table, and we have nothing in our database, right? So we can go over here, we can go into our post migration, and the migrations are how we declare what's going to be in our tables. We have a title, slug, likes, content. So the next step right here is to run this migration, PHP artisan migrate. And this is going to say, hey, Laravel, go ahead and run this migration and add things to our database. We have some default migrations that Laravel comes with, users table, password resets, failed jobs. And here's the one we just created, the post table. So if we go back into SQL Pro, we have now our posts table, and we can see the fields that we have. So if you're trying to do Laravel, if you're trying to do migrations, Laravel makes it easy. If you're trying to build out your database, Laravel makes that easy as well. Okay, so we have that. Next step is to make sure that our model is correct. So if we close all these out, and that's kind of a fun file to look at, right? Is we look at our database.sqlite. Do you want to open it? Maybe a bad idea. Let's try it. Cool. So this is the database that we just created. All kinds of stuff that VS Code can't really read. Super cool. So let's go into our app folder, and this is where the post model was created. And notice how there's nothing in the post model yet. We need to tell Laravel, okay, so this is how we tell Laravel what is in our database. We say, hey, there's a title, hey, there's a slug, there's likes in there, and then also, did we have something else? Content, that's right. Okay, so we have content as well. Cool, so now we have the migration, we have the model. Next step is now we can start using what's called Eloquent, which is Laravel's ORM to start creating data. So now I have the post model, I have the post migration. Let's go back into our routes, and I can show you some test stuff right here. So I'll go back into api.php, and let's do a route get posts. And then inside of here, we're just going to say, hey, Laravel, I want you to let's go grab it first. So let's say use app, if I could spell, app post. And we're going to say, hey, Laravel, I want you to create a post. Create where, let's say the title is my first post. And the slug, since it was required, is my first post. Okay, so as soon as we hit this API route, it should go ahead and create this, but actually let's save that in a variable. Post is equal to that. Let's spread this out so it's easier to read right there. And then let's return the post so we can see what was created. Cool. So now I can go into this right here, and golly, I shouldn't have named it so long. The API/posts is where we were at for this route on the left. If I do that, now we have my first post. My first post is here. SQL Pro goes ahead and updates itself. And if we go into the post folder right here, sorry, post table, and we go into data, we can see my first post was created right there. So we're at about 22 minutes, and what we've done is been able to create a resource type, which is posts. We're able to create a model, which right here lets us go ahead and create. You can do create, you can do update, you can do delete. So Laravel's Eloquent ORM comes with a lot of stuff to let us do database content changes. Okay, so if you have a larger application, it doesn't make sense to have route get post right here, route post for the creation for posts. So this would be the create route. Then we would need the route put route where this is post/ID. And then I'm just writing some pseudocode. So this would be update. This would be delete, where we would do route delete posts ID, right? So it wouldn't make sense to put all of these things in this file, because now this file starts to get large once we have posts, once we have computers. Any other resource type would go in here. So that's why Laravel comes with what are called controllers, where we can move all of this logic into a controller, and we can go ahead and create that controller. Let's see what the command for that is. So the command for that, if I am remembering everything correctly, PHP artisan make controller, and we're going to call it post controller, and we're going to say this is an API controller. So if I press enter here, so Laravel's complaining. Laravel's pretty good at finding errors. It's complaining that all of these aren't even real. So let's go ahead and delete all these. And now we have no routes in our API folder. Let's go back into our terminal. Let's try that again. PHP artisan make controller post controller -- API. Cool. So now it should have created our controller. Let's go over here, app HTTP controllers. And this is just from using Laravel so much that I know where everything kind of is. And post controller is what just got created. So we have a index to get all posts. So this will get all posts. And let me zoom in for you all real quick. Okay. So that's get all posts. Store is for create a post. Show is for show a post. Update is for update a post. And you kind of get this. Destroy is for delete a post, right? So this is the controller. Now we need to route to the controller. Where are we? So we would do route get posts, and then we would do post controller at index. And then we would do this multiple times for post, and this would be store, I believe it was. This would be update. This would be delete, or it was destroy. So this is kind of if you want to write it out by hand, and this is the 4 routes that you have. But Laravel comes with a handy dandy helper for that. Let me pull it up for you all. Laravel right here, the docs are really good. We're going to do resource controller. So if we go to resource controller, this is a handy way to shorthand all of those commands that we just wrote. Let me zoom in. So this is route resource photos, photo controller, in our case, post controller. So another cool thing that we can do is we can actually bind a model to it, and I'll talk about that in a second. There's a lot of fun nuances to Laravel. So yes, there are some things that you have to remember. Yes, it's very convention based and configuration based, but we can do a lot of fun stuff with Laravel and have to write way less code. So I showed you kind of the long way to do it. Now we're going to talk about the shorter way to do it, route resource, and we're going to say posts, and that's going to go to the post controller. So to test that this actually works, we can go into our terminal right here. I'm going to clear that out. Let me zoom out a little bit right there. Zoom, there we go. So we can say, let's go into cd my super duper new API, clear that out. You can say PHP artisan route list, and Laravel will list out all of the, I got to zoom out on this. There. So I hope that's large enough. Let me try that. So Laravel will actually create all the routes for you and show you the routes that you have. API/post for the get is going to show all, and it's going to go to the post controller and go to the index method on that controller. So there's a lot of cool stuff that Laravel does for us, and here it created all of these resources for us. So let's go and test this out because I want to make sure that everything is working out correctly. We're going to use a tool called Insomnia. If you're familiar with Postman, which is an API exploration tool, Insomnia is very similar. So here's Insomnia. And the reason I like Insomnia is it's just a little bit faster in my experience. So what we can do, I have all of these when I was testing out this whole thing on a Twitch stream. Oh, no, I don't want that. So let me delete all these, and then let's delete. Okay. So let's create a new request, and let's say get all posts. And we have this as the get is the HTTP call here. We're going to say HTTP. Oh, now I really regret what I named this thing. Let's go grab it. My super duper new API.test/API/posts. So this is how we get all posts. So now we're going to run through all of the different requests that we have. So here's posts. We'll send that. Nobody returned. Of course, Chris, come on. We didn't even fill out the controller. Okay, so let's go to our controller right here, post controller. We'll scroll up to the index right here, and we need to get all posts. So first we need to say use app. I always do that, app post. Okay, so let's fill these out. Get all posts, we're gonna say return post all. Okay, so that's get all posts. Store a post, we're gonna say post return post create, and then we're gonna say anything in the request. And there's validations we can do, which we'll talk about in this webinar if we have time, but that's how you create. Show is going to be return post find ID. Down here, we're going to update. So we're going to say post find by ID, update with request all right there. And then we're going to, so let's say post is equal to that. Post update, and then we're going to return the post. That should work. And then let's go down here to destroy. We're going to return the post delete, no, and the ID. Is that right? So it's not delete. Golly, I'm forgetting mine. Post destroy, that's right. And then it'll be the ID. So notice how easily that Laravel lets us do CRUD on a resource. We were able to write out our entire controller. We were able to do creation, update, delete, get all, and destroy in whatever that was, like a minute, 2 minutes, right? So let's go back to Insomnia. Let's see if this all worked out just fine. There's Insomnia. Send that. We got all the posts. So we get one post right here. because we only have one in our database. Let's go ahead and create a new request for create a post. And this will be a post request here. So let's do, golly, I hate what I named this thing. This whole thing right here. Let this be a lesson to not name things obscure things, which I should have already known. And this will go to the post API, but it's using a post request. The other things that we need to remember for Laravel's API is we always need to set content type is application/JSON. And this kind of goes for every API you want to deal with, is you say accept application/JSON. So that is an indication to the API, hey, I want JSON data back. And then we can go into the body right here. We can say title is my second post. And slug is equal to my second post, or sorry, that should be dashes. And there's ways to enforce a slug in Laravel. If you're interested in that, definitely look up Eloquent mutators and accessors. All right, so what else did we have? Likes? Is that what we called them? Let's go here. It was likes, yep. That should actually be an integer, which is interesting. So likes, and then we can say 10. And then the last part of this was content is my content. So let's send this and hope it works. Cool. So I was able to save to the database title, slug, likes, content, and ID. Get out of here, Insomnia. And then from there, where are we? We can go into our database and actually see the second post right there. It has my content, it has likes right there. So I noticed that Insomnia is returning this as a string. A cool thing about Laravel is it has Laravel, let's see, models. You can type hint in here. I wasn't planning on doing this webinar, but now I'm just searching the docs, which is a good place to be for Laravel since their docs are so good. Type Eloquent ORM. It's not mutators. Sorry, everyone. Now you're just watching me move around docs, but I guess this is like real development work, right? I want models. Defining models. Okay, so we have defining models. There's a way to bind here that I don't remember now. Golly. Okay. I think this is it. No, that's default attribute. Uh-oh. Cas. That's right. Thank you in the chat. No, not Laracast. So we'll call this cast. Attribute casting. Thank you. Okay. So we can go down here into this right here, and we can call it protected casts. And then we can say, hey, likes is going to be a Boolean. So let's go back into here. We'll open up our post model, and we have our fillable right here. We'll do the same for casts. And we want to say likes is going to be an integer. All right, so if that does its job, we should be able to go get all posts, hit send, and now likes comes back as an integer. So Laravel lets us do stuff like this pretty easily. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for letting me know that was Cass. There's a lot of things that are cool in Laravel that are good to remember, Cass being one of them. I should have definitely remembered that. But here we are. So let's do an update. We want this number 2. So let's do a new request. Actually, let's copy this one. Duplicate, update a post. Let's do create right there. And then let's move this up here. Update. We want this to be a put request, post/2. So we need to go to a specific post. Actually, let's do show a single post. So let's do, we'll duplicate this one right here. Show a single post. This will be a get request /post, and then we just need to pass it a number for the ID, and then we don't need any of these anymore. And we can hit send, and now we get one object for the specific post that we wanted. And if you look at get all posts, it returns an array of objects. Right here, show a single post will return a single object. There's a recommendation in the chat for doing a getting started with Laravel. We can definitely do that one up next. So show a single post. We have update a post right here. Let's see, here's number 2. So we're saying, hey, we want to update number 2. And let's just update the title right here. I don't need to update anything. My updated post right there. We'll hit send. And remember, we can definitely authenticate all this stuff. So you can go into auth and pass in a bearer token and authenticate this way, which we can definitely handle in a future webinar. But right now, we're just trying to get all of the CRUD functionality done. So this sent, let's see, it's not updating for some reason. Did it update in the database? My second post, it didn't update there. So let's go back to our controller. It seems like something's wrong around here. Update. So we have post find the ID. Okay. Post update, request all, and then return the post. So something happened here. And usually when I'm doing stuff like this, where I see a problem, I'll just go and write it out in code. So I'll go ahead and do this. There's definitely better ways to debug, but this is like a really simple way to debug. Get posts, and then I'm gonna say function. Oops. So we're gonna say post is equal to post find 2, and then I want to do post update. Title is going to be my newest title, and then we're gonna return the post. Let's just name this something different so that I don't like confuse it with this one right here. So let's go / blah in our browser. So we'll be over here, posts / blah. Okay, so my newest title is here. My second post is here. It looks like something happened in our request then, because it did update in the database right here, my newest title. So what I'm seeing is that, let's see, we go to our post, fillable title is infillable, so we're allowed to do that. I think post controller request all. I think this is fine. I think this works. But the problem is in Insomnia, where we sent it, instead of doing a multi-part, I'm going to send it in as JSON data. And we're going to say title, my new title. Sorry, everyone. I know you probably don't like my naming. So we'll send that in. It did update right there. We'll go down here into our database. I got to figure out how to, there we go. Reload happens automatically. Cool. So that is going to work out just fine. There's a question in the chat. Is it a bad idea to show post IDs on the URL? I personally don't think it is. It depends on your situation, right? Like if you're trying to hide how many posts or specific resource in a database there are, you could create something besides the ID, like a UUID or any other field, and then use that as the primary. And then use that to identify these resources. But right now, I think it's fine. Scotch, when I built it, has IDs as the API call, so it's fine there. All right, so where are we? Let's see. We are at, wow, that's 40 minutes already? Okay, but the other cool thing that we can do is that we can go in here, and Laravel lets us do some validation. So we can say, well, now I'm forgetting my code for validation. But let's go over to the Laravel docs, and this is something you'll find yourself doing a lot, is just searching the docs, validation. So the cool thing about Laravel's validation is that it's very easy to do, writing validation logic. Yeah, so we can do request validate right here, right? So I'll take this, request validate, I'll go back into my controller, and I'm gonna say, not the show one, I want the creation. There we go. So the store, we're gonna say validate the data first, and we're going to say request validate, and we're going to say, hey, title is required. And you can do other validations like minimum length. You could do max length. You could do like a regex if you want. Cool. So let's see if this works. Let's go back to Insomnia. Let's create a post. Title is right there. Let's not pass in title. Send it over. The given data was invalid. Title field is required. So that's how easy it is for Laravel to validate API data. Let's see, questions in the chat. Is it better for SEO purposes to have the name of the post, so the slug in the URL? So yes, since we're just building an API right now, having this be the number, the ID for, or whatever it is, let's do 2. That should be /posts/2 actually. So having the ID for the API is fine. If you're talking about building out your blog and showing this to users, you definitely want this to be the slug. And the way you can do that is, and I'll do this real quickly. If you go back to, this goes beyond building out just the API side of things, this goes to the front end side of things. We can go to routes, we can go to the web.php file, and we can say route get, and then this would be slug, right? And then we would say function slug, and then you could say post is equal to app post, where slug is equal to slug first, and then you would like return a view, which we don't have time right now, but you could do post, and then you would pass in the post that way, if my syntax is right. So that would be the way to use the slug as the URL part, but that would be the web.php file. So that's the front end side of things. Since we're on the API side of things here, I think it's fine to have the ID in the URL. Yes, you can prevent duplicate slugs. If you are interested in that, definitely look at Eloquent mutators, accessors, and then there's also Eloquent. There's Eloquent. What are they called? Also, there's another way you can do this in your migrations. Post migration. Where are you? Post table. Yep. You can say slug is unique. So it has to be unique. If it's not unique, then the database will just fail on the save. Another way you can do that is in your post. You can create what's called an observer, and you can say on save, check if this slug is unique. If not, you can append like random numbers to the end of it. Oh, yes. So thanks in the chat. Everybody's so helpful today. So there is a validation. So if we go back to the Laravel docs, let's go for validation. So here's the validation docs right here. I'm going to go to the top. So it's always weird to find. If you scroll down, there is an available validation rules. And this is fun to see. So this is the ways you can validate incoming data from Laravel. Here, let's see, you can say required, which is the one we used. Unique should be somewhere in here. Unique for the database. You can say, hey, this has to be unique for your user model or your post model by the email address. Or in our case, it would be unique app/post, comma, slug. Cool. So yeah, we're here at the 45 minutes mark. We were able to create a, what's the best view for this? I think this is actually a really good view. We were able to do CRUD in a Laravel API, and we're just scratching the surface on creating APIs. There's so much more to do that we can talk about in next ones. If you're interested, there are authentication, there's validation, there's deploying Laravel APIs, and I recommend DigitalOcean because I'm biased, because DigitalOcean's hosted Scotch for 7 years now. So big fan. And then Let's see what else is on the list. Deploying and scaling with Laravel. We could do, you could do rate limiting and API. A lot of stuff. Let me know in the chat if what you're interested in seeing. So, oh, okay. So question here, what is the difference between store and create? I actually should not even have create in here. So notice how get, uh-oh, what's happening? I pasted. Notice how the create method actually uses the get request. That's to show a form to like say, hey, fill out this form to create something, and then it will use the store method to actually make the database call to put it into the database. But since we are using just an API side of things, we can go back here into our API.php routes. I think it's API resource. Yeah, so it's API resource. We can get rid of this blah route. And now if we go back here, let's clear this out. So now that create method is gone. So now it's just index, store, show, update, and destroy. We are getting requests for Laravel Passport. We can definitely do that. Deploying a scalable API with DigitalOcean using Laravel, we can definitely do that. Off the top of my head, it would be, if I were to do it, I would say managed database as a service, which is one of DigitalOcean's products, which is what was used for Scotch.io to scale to 4 million page views per month. And then I would say a couple servers and a load balancer in there. But we can definitely talk about more stuff like caching in Laravel, caching views and all that good stuff. Database calls, all that good stuff. Let's see, more requests for deploying. How do you generate route list? That is PHP artisan route : list. Other question, what is the convention for versioning? I know that some people have, they'll say my dash, let's go here actually. So there's API/post/2. I know that there are conventions to do like V1, and then as soon as you update your APIs, if you don't want to break the old API, you can do V2, V3, V4. So that is one way to do it. You could just go into your routes file right here, and you could wrap this all in a route group right here. It would be V1. So if you wrapped all that in a V1 and then put all your routes in there, it should prefix all of that with V1. So let's go double check that. Oh, I already had it typed. Oh, it broke. I think must be of type array. Golly, my syntax is rusty. Okay, so I think it's this right here. If it's not, somebody yell at me. Okay, let's try that out. Let's go over here. Okay, sorry everyone. Let's go up here. Let's do a route group. And let's check my syntax because it's wrong. Oh, the new syntax. Okay, so that's middleware to a route group. I want route group. Route prefixes. So this is it, I think, is the one that we want. Yeah, everyone's yelling at me. Hey, it's prefix, Chris. Thank you, everyone. Prefix, and then it's, sorry, it's prefix V1. Didn't I paste it? Yeah. Prefix, okay, so this is what we want right here. Prefix right there, group. Okay, moment of truth. Chris doesn't know syntax anymore. Let's go back. PHP artisan route list. Okay, so now it's API/v1/posts. So that's one way to do it. Another way you can do it is storing it actually in the database. You can do it by like user. You can say user has version 1. So then you can look at who was authenticated. You can look at what version they're using, and then you can route them to the correct controller. So that's, you take a little bit more of the work into your code base rather than the user having to specifically pick out V1 or V2. So those are two different ways to do it. It depends on your user base. A couple other questions. Let's see. What is, sorry, let me look through these. But while I'm looking, I hope everyone found that helpful. Laravel has done a lot of work over the past few years, and honestly, Laravel has always been great, and I've always been a big fan. So thank you everyone for joining. Let's see. How do you delete multiple resources in one API call? Laravel has something in the docs where you can say if one is deleted, then it chains to something else can be deleted also at the same time. Instead of you explicitly deleting two different objects, you can say one chains to the other. So that's one way to do it. It seems like we're getting a lot of questions for like nested data and complex data. We can definitely push a little bit further into the how Laravel handles data and relationships, and some more about Eloquent, like many-to-many relationships, polymorphic relationships. If you're interested in that, let us know. We can definitely do more of that. Conventions for multiple query string. So I'm personally a big fan of like overly annoyingly talking about the routes. So basically what I'm getting at is if you have a post that has comments on it, I'm a fan of doing like posts. This would be like post ID, comments, and then if you wanted a single comment, then you would do comment ID, right? So some people think that, and both camps can be right. It depends on your application. I gotta stop saying it depends, but you can do post slash post ID, or you could just like skip all that and do comment slash comment ID. I guess that would just turn into comment. It depends on how like fine detailed you want your API to be. I kind of like doing it here because it I would say it minimizes the requirement for documenting your API because this is more self-explanatory than doing that and then saying in your docs, this will also return a post object or something like that, right? And again, it depends. Gotta stop saying that. But another thing that we can talk about in a future webinar is GraphQL, which can help kind of alleviate all of these creating your API routes because in GraphQL, right, it's just one giant route get GraphQL, and then basically the query that you give to this one route will determine the data you get back. So we can definitely talk about some GraphQL stuff. Cool, yeah. So it seems like there's some interest in GraphQL. Uh, it definitely helps solve a lot of the problems that REST APIs have, or it makes them a little bit easier to maneuver around. I don't want to say like outright it's better or anything because I still build out REST APIs because I think for as far as just building out APIs, this is pretty easy to do with this right here. And let me show you something really cool about Laravel real quick. Here we are, 10:54. I'm in Pacific time. So let's see, we can also, like, let's say we had a post, right? We created a post migration table. We migrated it. We created a post model. We created a post controller, and then we had to create the post route. So let's say we had, let me zoom in a little bit. Where did my terminal go? Sorry about that. Okay, so let's say we had a brand new table called dog, right? You could really cool, you could say PHP artisan make model dog, and you could say, hey, I want a migration and I want a controller. So I want the migration, I want the controller, and I want it to be an API. And you press enter and check it out. I have a dogs migration. I have pretty much everything we just did in this webinar in one command. So I have a dog model right here. If you go to database migrations, we have a dogs table migration, which you would fill this out right here, like name, playfulness, whatever attributes you need on your dogs table. And then also we go to HTTP controllers, dog controller, and we have everything here. We have the index, we have store, we have the show, but it's also type hinted to that dog model, which is really cool. Let's see. Question about Symfony developer versus going to Laravel. I am personally a big fan of Laravel because for me, and this is kind of one of the things when I built Scotch.io, um, I did a lot of the coding on the backend stuff, but ultimately, I'm a big fan of focusing on what your users consider your competitive advantage. And for Scotch, ours was content. So anytime that I spent not focusing on content for me was time that I shouldn't have spent. So the question there, I think Laravel helps me code quickly and get up and running with a product as fast as possible. If you've looked at our previous webinars, we've done Strappy content, which lets you build out an API even faster than this, but Laravel is a little bit more customizable. You can definitely find those Strappy videos on the DigitalOcean YouTube. Let's see, we have some questions about OAuth. We can definitely do that. +1 for GraphQL, Laravel Nova's in there. For Laravel deployment, I recommend Forge. That's how Scotch has been deployed for all these years. So it went from Forge deploys Scotch to DigitalOcean, and that's how Scotch has been deployed. Golly, look at that, an hour's already gone by. Authentication authorization is definitely on the list for the next one. Cool. Yeah, API keys. Laravel does have auth and authorization and API keys and bearer tokens and all that stuff. And we can definitely talk about that. So to wrap us up, here we are at an hour. Thank you everyone for joining this webinar. It will be recorded and it will be posted to our DigitalOcean YouTube channel, and you will get an email to that, a link in your email to that. Any questions that we didn't answer, we'll try to answer and get you a document for all of the answers to those. A lot of good ideas for upcoming webinars, so we'll definitely be doing more of that. Let's see what else. If you have questions, you can find us twitter.com/DigitalOcean. You can find me twitter.com/ChrisOnCode. My DMs are open there. What else? We were about to close out this webinar, and then a question just came in. What does the budget for building something like Scotch.io look like? If you're building it as just a blog, so I would say building a blog out. That's a big question, huh? So building a blog out like this, I would say takes a lot of time. I mean, Scotch has been slowly incremented on. It's been on Laravel for 5 years now, and it's slowly been incremented on beyond that. I would say, I don't know budgets, honestly, but a good way to kind of get a head start is Laravel comes with a lot out of the box. If you want to look at something like a headless CMS, that gets you a lot out of the box as well. But yeah, maybe I'll try to answer that and like put it in a doc and email it out to everybody. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining. I hope this was helpful. I hope this like live coding format was fun. I know that some people, I've doing a lot of Twitch streams, and we're starting up our Twitch DigitalOcean channel. So kind of less formal than normal webinars you may be used to, maybe a little bit more fun, I hope. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you in the next one.